All right, football fans, buckle up. We're diving deep into Italian Serie A. This time, got a huge match coming up.
Huge.
This Sunday, March 2nd, AC Milan.
Taking on Lazio.
At the San Siro, legendary stadium.
Can't get much bigger than this.
And we've got all the tools to break it down: in-depth match preview, prediction analysis, the whole shebang.
Tactical insights, key players to watch, even some betting tips.
Just for fun, of course.
Oh, of course, always for fun. But yeah, this is AC Milan, the kings of home dominance up against Lazio, who can be so exciting.
But a little unpredictable on the road.
Exactly. So 90 minutes at the San Siro, who knows what'll happen.
Got to set the scene first, though.
Yeah.
Right? Imagine an early spring afternoon in Milan, sunshine, and then you walk into the San Siro.
Over 80,000 people.
A cathedral of football, and those fans are loud.
Electric atmosphere, no doubt, can really psych out the visiting team.
Milan will want to use that to their advantage, for sure.
Absolutely turn it into their fortress.
Let's talk about how they've been playing Milan's on a good run. 4 wins, 2 draws, 1 loss in their last 7.
And at home. Even better, they've made the San Siro a tough place to get a result this season.
What's clicking for them at home? Is it tactical?
It's a lot of things, but yeah, their formation, that 4-2-3-1, gives them great balance.
Solid defense, but still dangerous going forward.
That's it.
Speaking of dangerous, let's name some names. Up front, they've got Rafael Leão.
Lightning fast.
Can leave defenders for dust.
And this is where it gets really interesting when you think about Lazio's defense.
Go on.
Their fullbacks like to get forward, right? Leave space in behind.
Perfect for a player like Leão to exploit.
If Milan can get him the ball in those channels.
Could be trouble for Lazio.
Troubles
galore.
Potentially.
Okay, so we've got speed up front. What about the midfield?
The midfield. You've got Sandro Tonali there, engine of the team.
Heard he's got incredible vision.
Oh yeah, his passing range is something else. Dictates the tempo, controls the flow, can unlock defenses with one perfect pass.
Sounds like a nightmare to play against.
For sure.
Then at the back, there's Fikayo Tomori.
Rock solid center back.
But I heard there's a question mark over his fitness.
Yeah, might be carrying a slight injury if he's not fit. That's a huge blow for Milan's defense.
He's that important to them.
Oh, absolutely. Leader at the back, organizes the line, reads the game brilliantly.
Okay, so that's Milan. Let's turn our attention to Lazio. How's their form been?
Bit more up and down, to be honest. 3 wins, 2 draws, 2 losses in their last 7.
Not quite as consistent as Milan.
Right, exactly. They can be brilliant, especially when they're hitting you on the counter.
But it's not always guaranteed.
No, especially away from home, consistency's been their Achilles heel.
Well, let's look at some of their key players up top. They've got Ciro Immobile, the goal machine.
Always hungry for goals.
And deadly in front of goal.
Give him a sniff and he'll bury it.
Yeah.
Thrives on those runs in behind the defense.
Interesting. And Milan center backs like to play a high line.
Oh yeah, that's where it gets interesting. They need to be so disciplined. If they get caught out of position, even for a second.
Immobile will punish them.
100%.
Sounds like that battle between Immobile and Milan's back line could be key.
Could decide the game.
Now in midfield, Lazio has Sergej Milinkovic-Savic.
Another one who can dominate games.
Powerful, creative.
B-U-T. There's a twist.
A twist. What's the twist?
He's suspended. Can't play in this match.
Oh, wow. That's huge EE.
It is huge EE. He's the glue that holds their midfield together. This changes things.
How do you think they'll adjust without him?
That's the million-dollar question. He does so much. Initiates attacks, breaks up play, links the defense to the attack. They need someone else to step up.
Big shoes to fill.
Enormous.
Especially against a team as organized as Milan.
You got it.
Okay, so we've got the powerful, dynamic Milinkovic-Savic missing. But wait, they've still got Luis Alberto, right?
Oh yeah, don't forget about Luis Alberto. He can pull the strings too.
Incredible passer right here.
Magician with the ball at his feet. Vision, technique can unlock defenses.
Especially important now with Milinkovic-Savic out.
He'll need to be at his best. Could be the one who conjures up a bit of magic.
So we've got Milan on fire at home, playing this structured, balanced system. And Lazio, known for their attacking flair, but missing a key piece of the puzzle.
It's a real tactical puzzle.
Setting up to be a fascinating clash.
Can't wait.
All right, so we've talked about the players, got a sense of each team's style.
The puzzle pieces, you could say.
Exactly. Now let's really get into the nitty-gritty tactics, stats, the stuff that might decide this match.
Love it. Let's start with that home versus away thing.
Right. Milan's home form.
Undefeated in their last 6 home games.
That's got to be a confidence booster.
More than that, they've built a system at the San Siro it's tough to break down. Solid at the back.
Hit you on the counter.
Exactly. That 4-2-3-1 gives them balance.
Lazio, on the other hand. Bit more unpredictable on the road, right?
Yeah, you see moments of brilliance, but then some defensive lapses too. Never quite know what Lazio you're gonna get.
It's going to be frustrating for their fans.
Oh, for sure. They usually go with a 4-3-3 or a 3-5-2, try to absorb pressure, then hit on the break.
But without Milinkovic-Savic to launch those counterattacks.
That's the big question, isn't it? How do they adapt?
Do they even stick with the same formation?
Could switch things up. Maybe a 4-4-2 diamond, pack the midfield, disrupt Milan's passing.
Interesting. Lots of options for Lazio's coach.
A real tactical puzzle.
Speaking of puzzles, let's bring in some stats prediction model.
Yeah.
It says Milan has about a 40% chance of keeping a clean sheet.
Makes sense. Their defense, their strength, especially at home.
Lazio, closer to 30%.
Bit leakier at the back, for sure. But here's the thing, both teams have been scoring pretty consistently lately.
Oh, yeah?
Yeah. Milan's averaging 1.7 goals per game, Lazio just behind at 1.8.
So even if Lazio concedes, they might still find a way back into the game.
That's the beauty of football.
Yeah.
But then, gotta look at goals conceded too, right?
Right. So how do they compare there?
Milan's only letting in 0.9 goals per game. Lazio's at 1.1, so even though they can score, they're more likely to concede, especially against this Milan side.
Makes sense, Milan. So well organized at the back.
Exactly.
Sounds like we could be in for a really tight tactical match then, eh?
Could be. But then you've got those individual battles too, like we talked about.
Immobile versus Milan's back line, for example.
Ooh, that's going to be fun to watch if Immobile gets in behind. Could be a long day for Milan.
But if Leon can use his pace to exploit those gaps, Lazio leaves.
Milan could be in the driver's seat.
Every move matters. Okay, you mentioned the prediction model earlier. Time for some outcome predictions.
All right, but just for fun, folks, no guarantees in football. So the model gives Milan about a 35% chance of winning, 30% for a draw, and Lazio with about 25%.
Slight favorites then, but Lazio definitely not out of it.
Not at all. Numbers might favor Milan, especially with that missing player for Lazio. But football's full of surprises. Lazio's shown they can beat the odds.
Maybe being the underdog will suit them.
Could be. Less pressure. Freedom to counter.
Speaking of odds, let's have some fun, shall we?
Oh, you know I love this part.
For our listeners who like to add a little extra spice to the game, any betting angles to consider?
All right, for those feeling good about a Milan win, odds are around 2.2 right now. But if you want a little more safety, double chance bet. So Milan win or draw more security, but slightly lower odds, like around 1.4.
Makes sense. What about goals? Over or under?
Well, looking at both teams, particularly Milan at home.
Tied at the back.
Exactly. Models leaning towards under 2.5 goals. Odds there about 1.85.
So real nail biter, eh? Few goals, lots of tension.
Potentially.
But for those who like to live dangerously, any spicier bets. Just for fun, remember.
If you're feeling really bold, combine a Milan win, both teams to score, and under 2.5 goals. Risky. But if it's a low-scoring thriller with Milan nicking it at the end,
could be a nice payday.
Worth a shot.
Okay, so we've got a good idea of possible outcomes, some fun bets to think about. But
I can't forget about what actually happens on the pitch.
Right. This match could come down to the midfield battle. How will Milan exploit that gap left by Milinkovic-Savic? Can Lazio disrupt Milan without him?
Sunday. We'll find out.
All right. So much to think about. Teams, the stats, the tactics, even some fun bets. I'm excited for this one.
Me too.
As we wrap up our deep dive, any final thoughts on how this might play out? What are the big things to watch for?
Well, for me, it comes down to a few things. First, can AC Milan really use that home advantage?
The San Siro effect.
Exactly. That crowd can be like a 12th man. If Milan comes out strong,
rides that energy.
Yeah, it could be huge for them.
But they can't forget about defending, right?
Oh, absolutely. Keeping Immobile quiet, that's priority number one. Milan center backs, they can't give him an inch.
Go make them pay.
100%.
And then on the other side, Lazio without Milinkovic-Savic. How do they cope?
That's the big question. Someone needs to step up, fill that creative gap. Luis Alberto will have a lot of responsibility
to make things happen.
Yeah, he's the one they'll be looking to.
You mentioned earlier, Lazio might even change formation.
Could happen. Maybe go with that 4-4-2 diamond, try to clog up the midfield, stop Milan from controlling things.
But then, less width, harder to stretch Milan's defense.
Trade-off.
It's a tough call for the manager.
And then, you never know, right? Someone could just have a moment of brilliance.
That's football.
Leone from Milan, Immobile for Lazio, one piece of magic, and the whole game changes.
Couldn't have said it better myself.
Yeah.
You know, this whole thing about Lazio and their midfield, it makes me think about a trend we're seeing in football.
Oh, what's that?
Well, midfielders who can do it all. Not just destroyers, not just creators, but a bit of everything.
The complete midfielder.
Right. You think of De Bruyne, Kimmich, they can defend, attack, transition smoothly.
So for Lazio, it's not just about replacing Milinkovic-Savic. It's about finding the right mix of skills. Exactly, to disrupt what Milan wants to do.
A real tactical challenge.
Yeah.
Before we go, I gotta ask for our listeners out there, if you were Lazio's manager, how would you deal with this Milinkovic-Savic problem?
Good question. Makes you think.
All right, that's our deep dive into AC Milan versus Lazio. Thanks for joining us.
Been a pleasure.
Big match this Sunday, March 2nd, at the San Siro. Don't miss it.
Should be a classic.
We'll see what happens. And tell us what you think. Will Milan's home advantage be enough? Can Lazio pull off the upset? Let's hear those predictions. Until next time, keep diving deep.